Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is 12 o'clock Eastern Time, more top of the hour, wherever you are today. Thank you for joining us today as we take a look at problem management and, in particular, root cause analysis and its primary objective, finding the root causes of those problems. So we're going to take a little look at several aspects of problem management, and hopefully that will give you a better understanding of what it really means to find the root cause. My name is Beverly Parker, and I'm a management consultant with Pink Elephant. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask during this webinar, please feel free to enter them in the Q&A section. A recording will be made available after this webinar, and we hope that you'll share it with your coworkers and anyone that you think might be interested in learning more about problem management. All right, so our agenda today, we're going to take a look at, first off, defining the difference between reactive and proactive problem management. Then we'll define what exactly we mean by root cause analysis. I want to talk a little bit about the value of doing that root cause analysis because it does take resources to find the root causes of problems. And then we're going to introduce you to a few of the different activities and a variety of techniques that you can use in finding those root causes. So let's start off with reactive versus proactive. Anytime an organization encounters incidents that are really significant, what we normally call major incidents, this is an opportunity for us to open up a problem record and figure out why, because these are generally the incidents that our customers, the business, are interested in not ever seeing again. So those are the obvious ones that we do need to react to and explore the underlying causes. Sometimes you've got incidents that recur over and over and over again. These become a nuisance for our customers and users. They cost money to deal with. So that's another time that we may decide reactively it's time to open a problem record. Another potential reactive problem management event would be we're not able to restore a service from its failure, and therefore we need to move forward with identifying the root cause. Now, on the other hand, proactive problem management is really about making that decision that we're going to seek these root causes to prevent problems from happening, to stop the impact on the organization, both on the business side with the loss of productivity, on the operational side for IT, because of the money that it costs to handle incidents and problems. We also, of course, are looking to improve the overall quality of our IT services. Customers want services that are reliable, dependable, available when they need them. And when we do proactive problem management, what we're trying to do is increase the overall quality by finding those root causes and, where we can, remove those from the environment. Now, when we talk about root cause analysis, I really think most of us have for a very long time understood what that means, or at least we think we do. Yes, we're trying to figure out why something happened. But the key is we really need to make sure that we take a structured approach to finding it. I would imagine many of you have encountered the situation where we have an incident, we have several incidents, we decide to look for the root cause, and we say, yes, we know what it is. So we make some kind of change, we put in a fix, and then a week later, the incident happens again. And so we're scratching our head like, wait a minute, we found the root cause. Well, apparently we didn't find the root cause, or at least maybe not all of them. So taking a structured approach, using different techniques, some of which I'll introduce you today, is intended to help us identify all potential causes, and then we can make decisions about which one of those are having the most impact, which ones we want to actually address. Now, when we go to investigate causes, it's pretty common for most of us that what we do is we start looking at technology. So it's got to be something in the technology somewhere. And that's generally where we sometimes jump to a conclusion. Well, what we actually want to do is broaden our thinking. And what you're looking at here are the 4 dimensions that are being introduced as part of ITIL 4. If you're not familiar with ITIL, ITIL 4 came out in February. And the 4 dimensions say to us, when you're doing root cause analysis, it might be technology, but it also might be people in the organization that are at the root cause. It could be something a supplier is providing to your organization. It could also be something in your value streams or processes. So the message behind this is we don't want to limit ourselves and only look for a root cause that is tied to technology. Now, why should you do this? Well, as I've said before, handling incidents over and over and over again costs money. Incidents that we let go on or where we don't try to find root cause will lead to downtime of services. So if we can find the root causes and eliminate them, this is going to lead to less downtime, higher levels of availability. And when we can provide higher levels of availability, this, of course, turns into greater productivity for our users and for the business. The reason we provide IT services, of course, is to facilitate the outcomes that our customers and users are seeking. And those outcomes get compromised anytime we have repeated incidents and problems that we don't resolve by finding the root cause. Sometimes those incidents and problems can be significant, can be major, and therefore the impact is even bigger when it comes to what the business is trying to do through the use of our IT services. So we want to limit that impact. We want to minimize that impact to the degree that we can. Firefighting is one of those vicious cycles that we all have in our organizations. We spend a lot of resources, people, money, time dealing with firefighting. So if we can remove the root causes behind that firefighting, we can lower the overall operational cost of our IT services, something that everyone's interested in doing. And when you can reduce firefighting, you can take the people that are spending their time doing firefighting and allow them to do innovation work, project work. Because when I'm faced with, should I go work on this research I was doing, should I go work on this project work, or should I firefight? Well, you know, in the moment, the business wants you to firefight. So if we can reduce that, we can have more time to dedicate to the innovation, the learning, the project work that's bringing new things to the organization. All of these things are going to lead to greater levels of user and customer satisfaction. Matthew, I just saw your question there. Yes, these slides will be made available. A recording will be made available of the webinar, so you can take a look at that. So let's take a look at a few of the techniques that are commonly used in a structured approach. These are not all the techniques. There's a wide variety of techniques. And while in this webinar I'm not going to be able to go deep into these, we are going to introduce them to you. Some of them you might be familiar with, some of them might be new to you, but at least we'd like to ensure that you have a high-level understanding of what these techniques can do for you and your organization. Now, the first one, brainstorming. Most of us have participated in some kind of brainstorming activity. You've got a group of people sitting around trying to come up with ideas. So in root cause analysis, when we try to find root causes using a structured approach, that may involve multiple people, multiple subject matter experts. And in that case, we want the group to come together and just come up with ideas. We want them to get creative. Many of us in IT are very analytical, but at this point, we want to kind of set the analytical aside and say, let's just think outside the box. Let's come up with as many possible root causes as we can come up with. And so you start throwing ideas out and you start capturing those. One of the most important things to remember about brainstorming is we're not judging any of the ideas. That's not the point of brainstorming. So I don't want people to criticize someone's idea, say, no, it can't be that. You really want to just open the door and allow people to put their ideas forward, and you capture those in whatever way you'd like. I like to do brainstorming individually first, and I give everybody a notepad, a sticky notepad, and say, write as many ideas as you have on those sticky notes. And so there is no criticism. And so I'll give people 2 or 3 minutes, jot down as many as you can come up with. Then we'll talk about them. Or you can do it vocally and somebody's writing them on the board or people are writing them on a whiteboard. Either way, brainstorming is about generate as many as you can, as quickly as you can. Once you've generated these ideas, you've now got all of these sticky notes or you've got all these ideas that we captured. And you have to start to organize them. And in order to organize them, we can turn to affinity mapping. So if you've done the sticky notes, which is one reason I really like to do that for brainstorming, then we start putting them up on the board or sticking them on the wall, and we start looking for, okay, where's their overlap? Because there probably will be. And you say, oh, yeah, I had that one too, and we start putting them together. And then we start looking for similarities between the ideas. And so you start to group them together, and you say, well, this one's really talking about technology. And look, here's some that are talking about the people side. And so you start to put them there. Or maybe you see some that are about processes. The categories you put them in are what makes sense for what you have in front of you. People, process, technology, suppliers, those are common ones, but you don't have to use those. The idea is the team gets together and they talk and they start putting these little piles together. And when you see the common the commonality, if you will, between what you have grouped together, you're starting to identify your titles. So you come up with the titles, you put the sticky notes up there, and now you've got these groups. All right, well, I'm still looking at a lot of sticky notes here, a lot of ideas. Where do we start? This is where the expertise comes in. And so the group of people that are working on this will start to discuss the different groups and start to look at, well, which ones do we think are most likely, most probable to be the most impactful root causes? There are a variety of ways that we talk about in our root cause specialist course for how you can do that. But the idea is that we do want to rank them so that the group can agree, where are we going to start? Now, once you've done affinity mapping, what you might want to do is an Ishikawa diagram. Many of us refer to these as fishbone diagrams. And when we're going through fishbone diagrams and drawing this out, you typically have the spine coming off the problem statement, whatever the problem was that you've defined. Your primary factors are those title groupings from your affinity mappings. What were those? Maybe it's people, process, technology. Maybe it's something else. And once you have your primary factors drawn off of your spine, then you take all those sticky notes and you position them up there under the appropriate primary factors. Some you may have actually organized in your affinity mapping as, well, this one's kind of a subset of that one, and so you might even go down to tertiary factors. Once we get this organized in this fashion, Ishikawa diagrams are really about cause and effect. What is a potential cause and what's the effect of it? So as we map it out, again, it is about discussion and collaboration. The primary problem that I have observed when you have a single individual trying to do root cause analysis is it's from that person's perspective. And when you have several people that are now in the conference room and they've done this work and they've got this Ishikawa up on the board, and that discussion starts, we start to get different perspectives. And because of that those differing perspectives, we have different ideas come to light. And we start to talk about these different factors that are contributing potentially to the problem. And this allows the group to then understand and be willing to look at the different factors from someone else's point of view and recognize that, well, yeah, I can see how that would happen. Once you've got this organized, you then will, within the group, agree, well, let's tackle which ones do we think we want to look at first, because you may not look at all of them. We've generated a lot of ideas at this point. So what we can do now is say, all right, we want to tackle this part, this potential cause. Then we'll look at this one. And you'll rank them just as we talked about in the affinity mapping. That's where you start to dig a little bit deeper. And one of the ways to dig a little bit deeper are the 5 whys. This is one of the simplest approaches to getting a team to keep digging and to not stop at the first assumption. So when you have a problem statement, your main problem, and you've chosen one of those primary factors and a cause, you basically say, why does that happen? Why did X happen? And you answer that question. Why did the database get set to read only? When you answer the question, you then ask why again. Well, why did that happen? And you keep asking why and coming up with an answer, and then asking, well, why did that happen? There's no magic to the number 5. The number may not be 5. The number might be 10. It might be 12. It might be 2. The idea is you will keep going with this why answer until you reach a point that you realize you no longer have any control over that answer. At that point, we want to start to figure out what's the way to approach that. So again, it gives us the ability to dig deeper and to question, rather than stopping at something that we might be making an assumption about. Another technique, this is a proprietary technique, the Kepner-Trego problem analysis. We mention it here to simply show you that it also digs below the surface. So you've got your problem statement. You have a description of it. Then you establish the possible causes. Well, everything I've talked about up to this point has been following along this same line. In Kepner-Trego, once you've established those possible causes, then the team will decide what's the most probable cause. And once we've identified what we believe as the most probable cause, we have to go in and test it. That leads us to the 5th step, which is now we need to verify that this is the true cause. Now, as I said, this is a proprietary approach. We don't teach Kepner-Trego, but it is one of those that's been around for a very long time and can be very successful when you learn the proper way to apply it in your root cause analysis efforts. Another technique that we talk about is the fault tree analysis. Now, the fault tree analysis, as you can see here, is intended to identify a chain of events. And when we look at that chain of events, what we're trying to do is actually map the relationships between certain faults and subsystems and maybe redundancy in our structure of our services. And we create a logic diagram, such as you see here, of the overall system. And what we're basically doing is saying, all right, up here at the top, where we've got this undesired event, that major incident, those recurring incidents, some kind of event happened. And what we want to do is follow the trail back through these logic gates and or gates and identify the events that might have led to that problem. And as you can see here, when we talk about different events, we're trying to get down to the basic event, the basic root cause. But in following this top-down, there are other kinds of events that we may identify. For example, resulting events. Resulting events, if something happens, then this always happens. You may also have conditional events, which means this has to happen for the AND gate to be true or the OR gate to be true. There are trigger events. Trigger events are the conditions that restrict or affect the logic gates as well. So, you'll see these are fairly common terms, but if you go out and you Google fault tree analysis, you'll also see that there are other kinds of events. Depending on the industry using a fault tree analysis, there are different terms. But the overall message is, let's figure out all of the potential basic events that could have led to this overall problem. This is really another way of kind of doing a 5 whys, if you will. You keep digging deeper and deeper. Now, you can also use this the opposite direction. You can identify some basic events and say, if this happens, what kind of intermediate conditional resulting event, trigger event might occur? And you can go the other direction as well. So it's one more technique, again, that forces us to think beyond the obvious and to identify potential causes that we want to investigate further. Our next technique is the Pareto analysis. Often when I am talking with people about Pareto and I say, are you aware of Pareto? Most people will say, well, no, not really. And then I'll say, are you aware of the 80-20 principle? Oh, yes. Well, that's Pareto. We can use the Pareto analysis in order to narrow our focus. If you've come up with certain contributing factors to a problem, well, it could be the model of the printer, it could be the location, it could be X number of things. And you say, well, let's look at the model of printer, and you go back and you look at your incidents and you say, well, you know, the incidents have covered a span of 5 different printers. Okay, so we got 5 different printers. Which of those incidents were reported on which printer the most number of times? Because what you're trying to do in Pareto is say, all right, I want to look at the number that were related to printer A, then printer B, then printer C, then printer D. And I order them in decreasing order. Well, 25 of the incidents were printer A, 17 were printer B, and I keep going in that order. And I create a bar chart, as you see here. And then I look at the overall percentage. And I'm trying to identify the approximate 80% of the incidents were tied to which printers. And when I figure out where that is, in this case, you can look at the dotted line. A, B, and C were my printers, my top 3 printers. Those are the incidents I'm going to explore first, because I want to focus on the biggest impact. And so Pareto allows me to identify where that approximate 80% is and say, these are the ones we're going to look at. These other 20% we may not have time to get to. Let's focus on these causes. So it's a great way to, again, get the team to focus specifically in the areas that we want to look at in more depth, and you can go from there. So those are the techniques I just wanted to introduce you to this morning. Again, these are techniques that we address in our root cause analysis specialist course. In that 2-day course, we certainly go through these techniques in more detail. We have exercises that attendees go through to practice using these techniques. There are some other techniques in that course that we talk about it as well, because what we want you to do is to walk away from the course feeling confident you can go back, help your organization implement some of these techniques, and be more successful at finding the underlying root causes. You can go out to our website, pinkelephant.com, take a look at our course schedule, and see when this course is coming up. You can join the course virtually. In some cases, we do it virtually. Other cases, we can bring it into your organization and train a whole group of people. So if you're interested in learning more about root cause analysis, and in particular how to use these techniques, take a look at our website. Join us for a course. I deliver that course, and maybe I'll encounter you there. The last thing that I want to mention to you, I don't know if you're aware of our annual conference that happens every year in February. Ours coming up next February. You can probably guess by looking at this. The theme of our conference next year, ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and it's got a Batman theme. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of people who come from all over the world to join us. Practitioners like yourselves are often the people that are talking and engaging in sessions. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to network with others and find those people who might be having the same challenges. So if you're interested, you can go out to our website, take a look at the conference schedule, see if there's something you'd like to learn about, and maybe come join us in February. I'd love to meet you all. So again, my name's Beverly Parker. If you happen to show up at the conference, come find me. We can talk more about root cause analysis. If you'd like, or about any other topic in IT service management. So let me take a look here. I don't see any questions, so let me pose it to you now. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you at this point? If so, please feel free to put them in the Q&A session, and I'll be glad to talk about them. You can see here some of our Twitter and our YouTube. This will be posted out on YouTube, by the way, once we get the recording published and out there. You can follow us in a variety of ways, and we'd love to hear from you. So thank you for giving up part of your day today to join me in looking at problem management and root cause analysis. Hope you guys have a great day.